Today we're going to talk about the Ottoman Empire in the 19th century, about its politics, society, and economics. We're going to see also a timeline where we're going to analyze and see what events occurred in the 19th century in the Ottoman Empire to see why these events caused its fall in the 20th century. We're going to see an infographic. During the introduction, we're going to see like all of the things we're going to see during the video, but in one image. So pay attention. We hope you enjoy.
During the 19th century, the world, especially Europe, entered into a new period. After the Industrial Revolution, countries became industrialized, the population grew, and people migrated from the countryside to the cities. The way of thinking changed again. Nationalism grew, and the commerce between countries was developed. The world was facing the Industrial Revolution. Machines started to do and to work, and things were easily done. This process and new changes affected positive and negatively societies, economy, and politics in all of the European countries. The Ottoman Empire was one of them. The Ottoman Empire faced a difficult period in that century, but in the late 19th century, it was one of the three greatest and powerful empires in Europe and in Southwest Asia, so was Austria-Hungary and Russia. It covered a large amount of territory. During the early 19th century, it also started to lose all its power and some territories because they became independent or they were conquered by other powerful countries. The Ottoman Empire faced a modernization and reforming period, but finally in the early 20th century it lost all its power. Even if it disappeared, it was a very powerful and important nation during the 19th century.
During the 1800s, the Ottoman Empire started losing power. Its economy and government were weak. Parts of the empire broke away. For example, Greece gained its independence in 1829. From 1808 to 1839, Sultan Mehmet ruled. He tried to reform the empire and tried to restore a strong and central government.
He also induced several reforms, for example edicts, or firmans, by which he closed the court of confiscations and took away much of the power of the pashas. The pashas are a higher rank of Ottoman Empire political and military system. Even though he is recognized for the extensive administrative, military, and fiscal reforms he started, he could not keep the empire together. Slowly, the Ottoman Empire lost lands to Austria, Russia, Great Britain, and France, and other lands started to become independent. Before the reforms of the 19th and 20th centuries, the state organizations of the Ottoman Empire were the military administration and the civil administration. The Sultan was the highest position in the system. At the same time, a secular legal system called the Qanun coexisted with religious law. The Ottoman Empire was always organized around a system of local jurisprudence. A legal administration in the Ottoman Empire was part of a balancing central and local authority. People were permitted to have a culturally and religiously different groups. The Ottoman system had three courts, one of Muslim, one non-Muslim, including Jews and Christians, ruling over their respective religious communities, and the trade court. One of the most important reforms which changed the Ottoman Empire's politics was the Edict of Gulhan. It was proclaimed in 1839 by Sultan Abdülmecid I that launched the Tanzimat period of reform and reorganization in the Ottoman Empire. This went on from 1839 to 1876. It promised reforms such as abolition of tax farming, reform of conscription, and guarantee of rights to all Ottoman citizens regardless of religion or ethnic group. In 1876, the first Ottoman constitution was written. It was written by the members of the Young Ottomans. The Young Ottomans were a secret society established in 1865 by the group of Ottoman Turkish intellectuals, particularly Mithat Pasha. During the reign of Sultan Abdul Hamid II, from 1876 to 1909, It only lasted 2 years, from 1876 to 1878. This period is known as the First Constitutional Era.
The Ottoman Empire was called Sigma of Europe. This name is given to an European country experiencing a time of difficult economic development. The term was first used in the middle 19th century to describe the Ottoman Empire. This phrase is commonly attributed to Tsar Nicholas I of Russia, referring to the Ottoman Empire, because it was increasingly failing under the financial control of the European powers and had lost a lot of territories. Lost territory in a series of destructive wars, and it was the economic situation because of the financial crisis after the Crimean War faced between Russia. Before the Crimean War, the Ottoman Empire also faced economic difficulties during Sultan Muhammad II, and certain social classes had long been under oppression under difficult taxes. So that's why the economic situation in the Ottoman Empire was not the best. Also, the economic development in the Ottoman Empire depended in its geography. The Ottoman Empire stood between the west and the east, blocking the land routes eastward and facing Spanish and Portuguese navigators to set sail in search of new routes of the Orient. In 1820, the United Kingdom and the Ottoman Empire had established a trade tariff that expired in 12 years. When the trade expired, the Anglo-Ottoman Treaty was created in August 16, 1838. This was a convention of commerce and navigation between Her Britannic Majesty and the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, and was signed at Balta Liman near Constantinople. This treaty established and declared the rights, privileges, immunities, and obligations of British merchants trading to or residing in the imperial territories. The conversion of commerce is also called the Balta Liman Treaty because of the place it was signed. This treaty was applied by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland with the Ottoman Empire. The objective of the treaty was to open the empire's market to the importation of Western products. This also was made because the economy in the Great Britain and Europe will improve their conditions. The first article of the treaty said that all rights, privileges, and immunities are confirmed from that moment until forever, and they can only be modified in the treaty. The trade policies imposed upon the Ottoman Empire after the Treaty of Balta Liman are considered to be some of the most liberal open market agreements that had been ever enacted during that time. The term of the treaty started that the Ottoman Empire will abolish all monopolies, allow British merchants and their collaborators to have full access to all Ottoman markets, and will be taxed equally to local merchants. These agreements didn't constitute an equal free trade arrangement, as the United Kingdom still employed protectionist policies on their agriculture markets. The creation of this treaty put Russia in a disadvantage over the Ottoman Empire because its economy will improve and benefited the English producers significantly. So the event that Russia will have more things to fight for in Great Britain, it was found in disadvantage. The regulating international trade also made duties that were set at 3% on imports and 3% on exports, 9% on transiting exported goods, and 2% on transiting imported goods. Before the proclamation of this treaty from 1820 to 1822, the Ottoman Empire exported goods worth 6,500 to the United Kingdom, but from in 1856 in Istanbul, the Ottoman Empire capital. The foundation of this bank was a result of the British and Banque de Paris et de Beva of France and the Ottoman Empire's government interest. The money used to open the bank was 135,000 shares, from which 80,000 bought by the English group and 50,000 by the French group, and only 500 shares were attributed to the Ottoman Empire. So the creation of this bank was for the interest of the European and Western economy. The objective of the creation of the bank was improving the country's economy, which was in a financial crisis after the Crimean War, also known as the Eastern War, from 1853 to 1856, where Russia lost its alliances with the United Kingdom, France, and the Ottoman Empire.
Now we have talked about politics and economics of the Ottoman Empire in the 19th century. Now we're going to talk about the society. In the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire started to lose all of its power. Also, there started to be independent nations. Either they looked for independence or they were conquered. And finally, in the 20th century, it lost all of its power. The society of the Ottoman Empire in the 19th century was unfair because because of the economy that they had because of the Industrial Revolution. Only the pashas or the higher ranked in military and government had good conditions of living. Instead, the people, the population didn't have this. Also, the society had many cultures and religions that were mixed together, like the Christians, Jews, and Muslims. The Ottoman Empire always have had Islamic traditions more than anything. So in the 19th century, they looked to westernized so that they could be considered as a potency in Europe. But this didn't quite belong to their religion because the Islamic didn't want to westernize. They wanted to be Islamic and have their traditions, and that's what they wanted to do by westernizing. Also, there was a group called the Young Turkish, which established and spread the ideas of a westernized nation and westernized ideas. This didn't quite make the people wanted to be westernized, but they wanted to be more close to their traditions that were the Islamic ones. So instead of going and upgrading and being more westernized, they instead to close and go back to the Islamic traditions, the Islamic old traditions and conservative ones. These made them also kind of looking for their fall and the loss of the empire because by doing this they were being more nationalistic, and then the Christians and the Jews and other religions and cultures had to spread and go away and separate from the Islamic ones. This is the timeline which we are going to use, and I'm going to explain first. In 1800, it started to lose power, and then in 1808, the Sultan Mehmed II started to rule. Then 12 years later, it was made the trade tariff between UK and the Ottomans. In 1829, Greece gained its independence, and then it it occurred the Anglo-Ottoman Treaty, which was in the Convention of Commerce and Aviation Parliament in the UK. In the 1939, it was the most important reforms were proclaimed in the Edict of Wuhan. In 1953, it was the foundation of the bank in Istanbul, the Crimean War started. 3 years later, it was the end of the Crimean War, and the Ottoman Empire won against Russia. 6 years later, the Treaty of Commerce and Navigation was made with the United States of America. And 3 years later, in 1965, it was the creation of the Young Ottomans, the secret society of Ottoman Turkish intellectuals which had westernized ideas. In 1876, it was the first Ottoman constitution was written. And then in 1878, after 2 years, the first Ottoman constitution was removed, and it was the end of the period named of the Fisk and as the first constitutional era. And that's where mostly the most important events of the Ottoman Empire end.